true life story. Part 1. The morning sun cast long shadows across the training ground at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado as Sarah Martinez adjusted her tactical vest for what felt like the 100th time. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the adrenaline that had been coursing through her veins since she received the call 3 weeks ago. She was about to become the first female to participate in an elite Navy SEAL cross-training exercise, a program designed to test the limits of intermilitary cooperation and gender integration in special operations. Sarah had spent 12 years in the Army, rising through the ranks as a sniper and reconnaissance specialist. Her record was spotless, her marksmanship scores consistently perfect, and her tactical knowledge had saved countless lives during her 4 deployments in Afghanistan and Iraq. Yet standing here among the most elite warriors in the world, she felt the weight of representing not just herself, but every woman who had ever dreamed of proving their worth in combat. The SEAL team she would be working with was led by Chief Petty Officer Marcus Rodriguez, a veteran with 15 years of service and a reputation for being both exceptionally skilled and notoriously skeptical of anyone who hadn't earned their trident. His team had completed some of the most dangerous missions in recent military history, operating in the shadows where failure meant death and success meant saving American lives. As the team gathered for the initial briefing, Sarah noticed the subtle glances and whispered conversations. She had expected this reaction. The military, especially special operations, remained largely a man's world, and she understood that her presence challenged long-held beliefs about women in combat roles. But she had not come this far to be intimidated by skeptical looks or hushed doubts. The exercise scenario was complex and realistic. Intelligence suggested that a high-value terrorist target was hiding in a compound deep in enemy territory. The mission required precision, stealth, and the ability to adapt quickly when plans inevitably went wrong. Sarah's role was to provide overwatch and long-range support, utilizing her sniper skills to protect the team during their infiltration and extraction. During the equipment check, she methodically inspected her rifle, a weapon she had customized over years of service. Every component had been carefully selected and adjusted to match her shooting style. The rifle was more than just a tool. It was an extension of herself, capable of placing rounds precisely where she intended from, distances that would challenge even experienced marksman. Chief Rodriguez observed her preparation with the analytical eye of someone who had learned to assess teammates quickly and accurately. He watched how she handled her equipment, noted the confidence in her movements, and recognized the telltale signs of someone who had been under fire before. Despite his initial reservations about the exercise, he found himself impressed by her professionalism and obvious competence. The first phase of training involved basic team integration exercises. Sarah had to learn how the SEAL team communicated, moved, and operated as a unit. Their methods were different from what she was accustomed to in the Army, more fluid and adaptable, requiring constant communication and absolute trust between team members. She studied their hand signals, practiced their movement patterns, and worked to understand the unspoken language that kept elite teams alive in hostile environments. As the days progressed, the initial tension began to ease. Sarah proved herself during live-fire exercises, consistently hitting targets at ranges that impressed even the seasoned SEALs. Her ability to remain calm under pressure became evident during stress-inducing scenarios designed to test mental fortitude. She didn't just keep up with the team. In many situations, her different perspective and training background provided valuable insights that improved their overall performance. The breakthrough moment came during a night infiltration exercise. The team was tasked with approaching a simulated enemy position without being detected by sophisticated sensor equipment and trained opposition forces. Sarah's reconnaissance background proved invaluable, as she identified patrol patterns and blind spots that the others had missed. Her suggestions for approach routes and timing helped the team successfully complete their objective when previous attempts by other units had failed. Chief Rodriguez began to see past the politics and controversy surrounding women in combat roles. What mattered in his world was competence, reliability, and the ability to perform when lives were on the line. Sarah was demonstrating all 3 qualities consistently. She wasn't trying to prove she was as good as the men. She was proving she was a skilled operator who happened to be a woman. The real test would come with the final exercise, a complex scenario that would push everyone to their limits. Intelligence briefings indicated they would be facing a well-defended position with multiple layers of security. The target was described as highly valuable but extremely dangerous, someone whose capture could prevent a significant terrorist attack, but whose location was protected by heavily armed and well-trained guards. As Sarah cleaned her rifle that evening, preparing for the culminating exercise, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. Every challenge she had overcome, every doubt she had faced, and every barrier she had broken had led to this opportunity. She thought about the young girls who might be watching her progress, wondering if they too could serve in roles that had been closed to them. The weight of representation was heavy, but it was a burden she carried willingly. She understood that her performance would influence future decisions about women in special operations. Success could open doors for countless others. Failure could reinforce existing prejudices and close opportunities for years to come. Chief Rodriguez approached her position, his expression serious, but not unfriendly. He had been observing her throughout the training, evaluating not just her skills but her character. Tomorrow's exercise would be the ultimate test, and he needed to know that every member of his team was ready for what lay ahead. Their conversation was brief but meaningful. He acknowledged her skills and confirmed her role in the upcoming mission. For the first time since arriving at Coronado, Sarah felt like she was truly part of the team rather than an outsider being evaluated. The acceptance wasn't complete yet, but it was a beginning, and that was enough for now. As night fell over the base, Sarah made her final preparations. Tomorrow would determine whether all her years of training, all her sacrifices and dedication would culminate in success or failure. She was ready for the challenge, confident in her abilities, and determined to prove that excellence knew no gender boundaries. True life story. Part 2. The pre-dawn darkness enveloped the training area as Sarah moved silently through her final equipment check. Her rifle felt familiar and comfortable in her hands, each component exactly where it should be. The scope was perfectly zeroed, the bipod legs adjusted to her preferred height, and the sling configured for rapid transitions between positions. She had spent years perfecting her setup, and today that preparation would be put to the ultimate test. Chief Rodriguez gathered the team for the final briefing. The simulated enemy compound was more complex than anything they had faced during the previous exercises. Intelligence indicated multiple guard positions, sophisticated surveillance equipment, and a target who was both valuable and extremely dangerous. The mission required perfect coordination, split-second timing, and the ability to adapt when the inevitable complications arose. Sarah's position would be approximately 800 meters from the compound, providing overwatch for the team's approach and insertion. From her vantage point, she would have clear lines of sight to multiple areas where threats could emerge. Her job was to eliminate any dangers that the team couldn't handle themselves, and provide early warning of enemy movements that could compromise the mission. As they moved to their insertion point, Sarah noticed how differently she felt compared to the first day of training. The initial nervousness had been replaced by focused determination. She had proven herself during the preliminary exercises, but this final test would determine whether she truly belonged among the elite warriors surrounding her. The helicopter insertion went smoothly, depositing the team at a landing zone several kilometers from their target. Sarah immediately began moving toward her designated overwatch position, using night vision equipment to navigate the rough terrain while maintaining complete silence. Every step was calculated, every movement deliberate, as she worked her way to the elevated position that would give her the best fields of fire. Reaching her position 30 minutes before the scheduled assault, Sarah began her methodical preparation. She established multiple firing positions, identified key landmarks for range estimation, and studied the compound through her scope. The layout was exactly as described in the intelligence briefing, but she noted several details that could affect the mission. Guard rotations were precisely timed, and she identified blind spots in their patrol routes that the assault team could exploit. Through her earpiece, she heard Chief Rodriguez conducting final preparations with his team. Their voices were calm and professional, displaying the confidence that came from years of experience and extensive training. Sarah keyed her radio and provided her initial reconnaissance report, describing guard positions, patrol timing, and potential threats that might affect their approach. The compound below was a realistic simulation of the terrorist facilities they might encounter in actual operations. The structures were arranged to provide defensive advantages, with multiple firing positions and escape routes. The opposing force consisted of experienced military personnel who understood how to defend such positions effectively. This was as close to real combat as training could provide. As 0 hour approached, Sarah felt the familiar calm that preceded action. Her breathing was controlled, her heart rate steady, and her vision sharp. Through her scope, she could see the assault team beginning their approach, moving like shadows across the landscape toward their objective. Everything they had trained for was about to be put to the test. The first phase of the assault went according to plan. The team successfully infiltrated the outer perimeter without detection, neutralizing guards silently and efficiently. Sarah provided continuous overwatch, scanning for threats and maintaining communication with the team leader. Her position offered excellent visibility, and she was ready to engage targets that might threaten the mission. Then the situation changed dramatically. An unscheduled patrol emerged from a building that intelligence had indicated was empty. The guards were moving directly toward the team's position, and their discovery would compromise the entire operation. Sarah had a clear shot at the lead guard, but taking it would reveal her position and potentially alert other defenders. Chief Rodriguez faced an impossible choice. Engaging the patrol would start a firefight that could escalate quickly, potentially overwhelming his small team. Allowing them to discover his position would end the mission in failure. He needed a solution that would eliminate the immediate threat while maintaining operational security. Sarah's voice came through his earpiece, calm and confident. She had identified an alternative approach that could neutralize the patrol without alerting the compound's defenders. Her plan required precise timing and expert marksmanship, but it offered the best chance of mission success. Chief Rodriguez had to make a decision that would either validate his growing trust in Sarah's abilities or potentially compromise his team's safety. The second stretched into what felt like hours as he considered his options. Every instinct developed over 15 years of special operations told him to rely on proven methods and trusted teammates. But the tactical situation demanded innovative thinking and exceptional skill, qualities that Sarah had demonstrated consistently throughout their training. His decision would be a turning point, not just for the exercise but for the entire concept of gender integration in special operations. The success or failure of the mission would influence policy decisions, training protocols, and opportunities for future generations of female service members. The weight of that responsibility was enormous, but Chief Rodriguez had learned to focus on immediate tactical needs rather than long-term political implications. Through her scope, Sarah watched the patrol continuing their approach toward the concealed assault team. Time was running out and she needed authorization to act. Her finger rested lightly on the trigger as she waited for the chief's decision. She had calculated the range, accounted for wind conditions, and identified the precise sequence of shots that would neutralize the threat. The patrol was now less than 50 meters from discovering the assault team's position. Sarah could see the lead guard beginning to slow, his attention drawn to something that didn't look right. In seconds, he would sound an alarm that would bring the entire compound's defenders rushing to their location. The mission hung in the balance, dependent on a split-second decision that would determine success or failure. Chief Rodriguez's voice came through the radio, clear and decisive. He was authorizing Sarah to engage the patrol using her proposed method. The trust implicit in that authorization was not lost on either of them. He was betting the mission's success on her skills and judgment, making a decision that went against years of established protocol and conventional wisdom. Sarah's response was immediate and professional. She acknowledged the authorization and began implementing her plan. Through her scope, she could see the patrol clearly, their positions and movements exactly as she had anticipated. Everything she had trained for, everything she had worked toward came down to the next few moments. The target picture was perfect, and she was ready to prove that her place among the elite was well-deserved. True life story. Part 3. Sarah's first shot was perfect. The subsonic ammunition created barely a whisper as it found its target, dropping the lead guard silently. Her follow-up shots came in rapid succession, each one precisely placed to neutralize the patrol without creating noise that would alert other defenders. Within seconds, the immediate threat had been eliminated, and the assault team could continue their approach toward the compound. Through her earpiece, Sarah heard Chief Rodriguez's quiet acknowledgement. The relief in his voice was subtle but unmistakable. Her intervention had saved the mission and demonstrated the kind of precision shooting that made the difference between success and failure in special operations. The patrol had been neutralized so efficiently that other guards remained unaware of what had happened. The assault team continued their infiltration, moving through the compound's outer defenses with the confidence that comes from knowing they had reliable overwatch protection. Sarah maintained her vigilance, scanning for additional threats while monitoring the team's progress through her scope. Every movement was calculated, every decision based on years of training and combat experience. As the team approached the main building, Sarah identified another potential problem. Thermal imaging equipment mounted on the structure was scanning the approach routes, threatening to detect the infiltrating SEALs despite their careful movement. The thermal sensors were protected by reinforced housings that would be difficult to disable with conventional weapons. But Sarah recognized an opportunity that others had missed. The thermal units were powered by external cables that ran along the building's exterior wall. A precisely placed shot could sever the power connection without creating obvious evidence of sabotage. The guards might assume the equipment had simply malfunctioned, buying precious time for the assault team to complete their mission. It was a high-risk shot that required extreme accuracy, but Sarah was confident in her ability to make it. She radioed her observation to Chief Rodriguez, describing the thermal threat and her proposed solution. The chief could see the sensors through his night vision equipment, but he hadn't noticed the vulnerable power cables that Sarah had identified from her elevated position. Her different perspective and attention to detail were providing tactical advantages that could determine the mission's outcome. Authorization came quickly. Chief Rodriguez had learned to trust Sarah's judgment and marksmanship. Her previous success with the patrol had demonstrated her ability to solve complex problems under pressure. The thermal sensors posed a real threat to his team's safety, and Sarah's solution offered the best chance of neutralizing that threat without compromising their position. The shot was more difficult than the previous engagements. The power cable was a small target at extreme range, and damaging it without hitting the building's structure required precise bullet placement. Sarah adjusted her scope for the increased distance, accounted for the slight breeze that had developed, and calculated the exact point of aim needed to sever the cable cleanly. Her shot was flawless. The cable parted exactly where she had aimed, and the thermal sensors immediately went dark. To observers in the compound, it would appear as though the equipment had suffered a routine malfunction. The assault team now had a clear approach route that wouldn't be compromised by thermal detection, significantly improving their chances of reaching the target undetected. The infiltration continued smoothly as the SEAL team worked their way through the compound's interior defenses. Sarah maintained her overwatch position, providing continuous surveillance and ready to engage any threats that emerged. Her role required constant vigilance and the ability to make split-second decisions that could affect her teammates' lives. Inside the compound, Chief Rodriguez and his team were discovering that the exercise scenario was more complex than they had anticipated. The target building contained multiple rooms and corridors, creating numerous opportunities for defenders to mount resistance. Intelligence had been accurate about the basic layout, but the reality of clearing such a structure was proving more challenging than expected. Sarah could see part of the building's interior through windows and open doorways, giving her unique insight into the team's progress. Her elevated position provided a tactical advantage that ground-level operators couldn't match. She was able to identify potential ambush points and alternative routes that weren't visible to the assault team, information that proved invaluable for their navigation through the complex structure. When armed defenders suddenly appeared at a second-floor window, preparing to fire down on the infiltrating SEALs, Sarah was ready. Her position gave her a clear shot at the threat, and she engaged without hesitation. The defenders were eliminated before they could fire on the assault team, preventing casualties and allowing the mission to continue. The engagement was witnessed by exercise observers who were monitoring the scenario from a concealed position. Their job was to evaluate the performance of all participants, noting both individual skills and team coordination. Sarah's intervention had been perfectly timed and executed with exceptional precision, demonstrating the kind of tactical thinking and marksmanship that defined elite operations. As the assault team moved deeper into the compound, they encountered increasingly sophisticated defenses. The opposing force had prepared multiple layers of resistance, including booby traps, defensive positions, and coordinated counterattacks. Each obstacle required careful navigation and precise execution to overcome without suffering casualties. Sarah's role evolved throughout the exercise as tactical situations developed. Her position allowed her to provide early warning of enemy movements, identify threats that weren't visible to the ground team, and engage targets that posed immediate dangers. She had become an integral part of the team's success, her skills perfectly complementing those of the seasoned SEALs. The most challenging moment came when the assault team reached the target room and discovered it was heavily fortified with multiple defenders. The space was too confined for conventional assault tactics, and the defenders had positioned themselves to maximize their defensive advantages. Chief Rodriguez needed a solution that would allow his team to complete the mission without suffering unacceptable casualties. Sarah studied the situation through her scope, analyzing the defensive positions and looking for weaknesses that could be exploited. The windows were reinforced, but she noticed that one section of the wall appeared to be constructed differently than the others. Her knowledge of building construction, gained during previous deployments, suggested that area might be vulnerable to precision fire. Her proposal was unconventional, but tactically sound. By placing shots at specific structural points, she could weaken the wall enough to create a new entry point for the assault team. It would require extraordinary marksmanship and precise timing, but it offered the best chance of mission success without unacceptable risk to the team. Chief Rodriguez listened to her plan with growing respect for her tactical acumen. Sarah wasn't just providing sniper support. She was thinking like a special operations planner, identifying creative solutions to complex problems. Her proposal demonstrated the kind of innovative thinking that separated elite operators from conventional forces. The decision to proceed with Sarah's plan represented a fundamental shift in how the team was operating. Chief Rodriguez was no longer viewing her as an attached asset providing support. He was treating her as a full team member whose judgment and skills were essential to mission success. That evolution in thinking would prove crucial for what was about to unfold. True Life Story, Part 4. The precision required for Sarah's structural shots pushed her skills to their absolute limit. Each bullet had to hit within millimeters of her intended point to create the necessary weakening effect without causing catastrophic collapse. Through her scope, she could see the specific points where the wall's integrity could be compromised. But hitting them required shooting that went beyond conventional marksmanship into the realm of engineering precision. Her first shot struck exactly where intended, creating a small but significant crack in the wall's surface. The defenders inside the room didn't immediately understand what was happening, assuming the impact was random fire from the assault team's position. Sarah's second shot expanded the damage, connecting with stress points that she had identified through careful observation of the building's construction. Chief Rodriguez watched the wall develop cracks with growing amazement. Sarah's understanding of structural vulnerabilities was proving as valuable as her marksmanship skills. She wasn't just shooting at targets. She was systematically dismantling the defender's strongest position using techniques that went far beyond standard sniper training. The third shot created the breakthrough they needed. A section of the wall began to separate from its supporting structure, creating an opening that the assault team could exploit. The defenders inside found themselves facing a threat from an unexpected direction, disrupting their carefully planned defensive positions and giving the SEALs the tactical advantage they needed. As the team moved to exploit the opening Sarah had created, she continued providing overwatch and early warning. Her position allowed her to see enemy movements that weren't visible to the assaulting force, and her radio calls guided the team around potential ambushes and defensive positions. The coordination between sniper and assault team was seamless, representing the kind of integration that made special operations so effective. The target was secured with minimal resistance. The defenders, caught off guard by the unconventional entry method, were unable to mount effective resistance against the coordinated assault. Chief Rodriguez's team accomplished their objective efficiently and professionally, but everyone understood that the mission's success had depended heavily on Sarah's contributions. During the post-exercise debrief, observers noted that the scenario had been completed more efficiently than any previous attempt. The combination of innovative tactics, precise marksmanship, and seamless team coordination had overcome challenges that had stymied other units. Sarah's performance had been exceptional by any standard, but what impressed the evaluators most was how naturally she had integrated with the SEAL team. Chief Rodriguez addressed the team after the formal debrief, acknowledging each member's contributions to the mission's success. When he reached Sarah, his words carried weight that went beyond simple praise. He recognized that she had not only performed exceptionally, but had elevated the entire team's capabilities through her skills and tactical thinking. The exercise's success created ripple effects throughout the special operations community. Word spread quickly about the female sniper who had outperformed expectations and contributed decisively to a challenging mission. Some viewed her success as validation of women's potential in combat roles, while others remained skeptical about broader integration efforts. For Sarah, the recognition was gratifying but secondary to the personal satisfaction of proving her capabilities. She had spent years preparing for this opportunity, and her performance had validated all the sacrifices and dedication that preparation had required. More importantly, she had earned the respect of operators whose approval was notoriously difficult to obtain. The days following the exercise brought unexpected developments. Military leadership began discussing expanded integration programs, using Sarah's success as evidence that properly trained women could contribute meaningfully to special operations. Policymakers who had previously been cautious about integration efforts found themselves reconsidering their positions based on empirical evidence of capability. Chief Rodriguez found himself in an unusual position as requests for interviews and briefings poured in from military leadership and media organizations. His reputation for straight talk and operational credibility made his opinions highly valued, and everyone wanted to know his assessment of the integration experiment. His responses would influence future policy decisions and shape opportunities for other women seeking similar roles. Meanwhile, Sarah was dealing with her own flood of attention. Military publications wanted to feature her story, and advocacy groups sought her endorsement of integration efforts. She approached these requests carefully, understanding that her words and actions would affect other women's opportunities. The responsibility of representation was something she took seriously. The most significant development came during a private meeting with senior military officials who were considering expanding the integration program. They wanted Sarah's honest assessment of the challenges and opportunities involved in training more women for special operations roles. Her insights would help shape selection criteria, training protocols, and support systems for future candidates. Sarah's recommendations focused on maintaining the same standards while ensuring that selection and training processes didn't inadvertently favor characteristics that weren't essential for mission success. She emphasized that physical capabilities were important, but that mental toughness, tactical thinking, and technical skills were equally crucial for special operations effectiveness. Her experiences had taught her that success in special operations required more than just meeting minimum standards. Operators needed to excel in their specialties, while maintaining the flexibility to adapt to unexpected situations. The training and evaluation process should identify candidates who possessed not just basic qualifications but the potential for excellence under extreme conditions. As discussions about program expansion continued, Sarah found herself serving as both an example of what was possible and an advisor on how to make it happen effectively. Her unique perspective as the first woman to successfully complete this level of integration made her insights valuable to planners who were developing new protocols and procedures. The attention and responsibility that came with her success were sometimes overwhelming, but Sarah remained focused on her primary goal of serving effectively in whatever capacity the military required. She understood that her continued success would be the most powerful argument for expanded opportunities, and she was determined to maintain the high standards that had brought her this far. Chief Rodriguez continued to serve as an important advocate for merit-based evaluation, regardless of gender. His support carried significant weight within the special operations community, and his willingness to speak publicly about Sarah's capabilities helped counter skepticism from those who opposed integration efforts. Their professional relationship had evolved into a partnership that demonstrated the potential for effective collaboration. The exercise had ended, but its implications continued to unfold. Sarah had proven that with proper preparation and opportunity, women could contribute meaningfully to the most demanding military missions. The question now was whether military leadership would have the vision and courage to build on this success and create broader opportunities for qualified women to serve in combat roles. As Sarah prepared for her next assignment, she reflected on how far she had come and how much farther there was to go. The breakthrough had been achieved, but sustaining and expanding the progress would require continued excellence from herself and others who followed her path. The foundation had been laid, but the structure still needed to be built. True life story. Part 5. 3 months after the successful exercise, Sarah found herself in an unexpected situation. Chief Rodriguez had been selected to lead a real-world mission, and he specifically requested her inclusion on the team. The operation was classified at the highest levels, but Sarah understood that her performance during training had earned her a place in an actual special operations deployment. The mission briefing revealed a complex scenario involving the rescue of hostages held in a remote location. Intelligence indicated that the captors were well armed and had positioned themselves in a defensible compound that would be difficult to assault using conventional tactics. The operation required the kind of precision and innovation that Sarah had demonstrated during the training exercise. As the team prepared for deployment, Sarah noticed a significant change in how she was treated by other operators. The initial skepticism had been replaced by professional respect, and she was included in planning discussions as a full team member rather than an attached specialist. Her tactical insights were valued, and her recommendations were given serious consideration by the mission planners. Chief Rodriguez had evolved from a skeptical supervisor into a trusted colleague who appreciated Sarah's unique capabilities. Their working relationship had developed into the kind of professional partnership that was essential for special operations success. He trusted her judgment completely and relied on her skills as much as those of any team member. The target location was in a hostile environment where American forces had limited support and would need to operate independently. The nearest friendly forces were hundreds of miles away, making the mission dependent entirely on the team's ability to complete their objectives without external assistance. Failure would likely result in casualties and international incident that could damage American interests. During the insertion phase, Sarah's reconnaissance training proved invaluable for route planning and threat assessment. Her ability to analyze terrain and identify potential hazards helped the team avoid detection during their approach to the target area. She spotted enemy positions that might have compromised the mission and recommended alternative routes that kept the team concealed. The hostage location was more heavily defended than intelligence had indicated. Additional guard positions and surveillance equipment had been installed since the last reconnaissance update, requiring real-time adaptation of the assault plan. Sarah's ability to provide accurate intelligence from her overwatch position became crucial for mission planning adjustments. Through her scope, Sarah identified patrol patterns and timing that differed from the intelligence briefing. The guards were more alert and numerous than expected, suggesting that the captors were aware of potential rescue attempts. This information forced Chief Rodriguez to modify his approach, relying more heavily on stealth and precision than the original plan had anticipated. As the team moved into position, Sarah discovered that one of the hostages was being held separately from the others in a building that hadn't been identified in the intelligence briefing. This complication threatened to compromise the entire rescue operation, as securing multiple locations simultaneously would stretch the team's capabilities beyond safe limits. Sarah's solution was characteristically innovative. She identified a way to neutralize the guards at the separate location using precision fire, allowing one team member to secure that hostage, while the main force focused on the primary location. The plan required exceptional marksmanship and timing, but it offered the best chance of rescuing all hostages without suffering casualties. Chief Rodriguez approved the modified plan, demonstrating complete confidence in Sarah's abilities. His trust was based on months of working together and observing her performance under increasingly challenging conditions. He knew that she would deliver exactly what she promised, regardless of the difficulty involved. The operation began at dawn, with Sarah providing overwatch as the team moved into assault positions. Her first targets were the external guards who could alert defenders inside the buildings. Each shot had to be perfectly placed to ensure silent elimination without raising alarm among other guards. The precision required was extreme, but Sarah's training and experience made the shots routine. As the assault teams moved to their objectives, Sarah maintained constant surveillance of the area, watching for threats that could emerge from unexpected directions. Her elevated position provided tactical awareness that was impossible to achieve from ground level, and her radio calls guided the team around potential problems before they became critical. The rescue of the hostages proceeded exactly as planned, with Sarah's support proving decisive at several crucial moments. When additional guards appeared from a concealed position, she eliminated them before they could threaten the rescue teams. Her ability to engage multiple targets rapidly and accurately prevented the situation from escalating into a prolonged firefight. During the extraction phase, enemy reinforcements arrived more quickly than anticipated. The team found themselves under fire from multiple directions as they moved toward their evacuation point with the rescued hostages. Sarah's position allowed her to provide suppressive fire that kept the enemy at a distance, while the ground team maneuvered to safety. The most critical moment came when Chief Rodriguez's radio malfunctioned, cutting off communication between him and the extraction helicopter. Sarah's position allowed her to maintain contact with both the team and the aircraft, serving as a communication relay that coordinated the timing essential for successful evacuation under fire. Her final shots of the mission covered the team's movement to the extraction point, suppressing enemy fire that could have prevented the helicopter from landing safely. The precision required was extraordinary, as she had to engage targets that were close to friendly forces without risking casualties among her teammates. As the helicopter lifted off with the entire team and all rescued hostages aboard, Sarah felt a satisfaction that went beyond personal accomplishment. The mission's success had validated not only her own capabilities, but the broader concept of women's integration into special operations. She had proven that gender was irrelevant when measured against the standards that truly mattered in combat. The post-mission debriefs confirmed what everyone already knew. Sarah's contributions had been essential to the operation's success, and her performance had exceeded the high standards expected of special operations personnel. Chief Rodriguez's recommendations would carry significant weight in future assignment decisions and policy discussions about women in combat roles. Word of the mission's success reached the highest levels of military and political leadership. The flawless execution and successful rescue of all hostages provided compelling evidence that integration efforts could enhance rather than compromise operational effectiveness. Sarah's role in the mission became a powerful argument for expanded opportunities for qualified women. The recognition that followed was both gratifying and challenging. Sarah found herself representing not just her own achievements, but the potential of all women seeking similar opportunities. The responsibility was enormous, but she embraced it as part of her service commitment. Her success had opened doors that others would need to walk through, and she was determined to ensure those opportunities remained available. As she prepared for her next assignment, Sarah understood that her career had taken on significance beyond personal advancement. She had become a symbol of what was possible when talent was evaluated without regard to gender, and her continued success would determine how quickly and completely those barriers would fall for others. True Life Story, Part 6-2. Years after the successful rescue mission, Sarah stood before a gathering of senior military officials, policymakers, and media representatives at the Pentagon. She had been invited to speak about her experiences and the lessons learned from the integration program that had begun with her participation in the SEAL training exercise. The audience included some of the most influential people in American defense policy, and her words would help shape the future of women in combat roles. Chief Rodriguez sat in the front row, wearing the insignia of his recent promotion to Senior Chief Petty Officer. Their partnership had continued through multiple successful missions, and he had become one of the most vocal advocates for merit-based evaluation, regardless of gender. His support had been crucial in expanding opportunities for other women to follow. Sarah's path into special operations. The integration program had grown significantly since Sarah's initial breakthrough. 12 more women had successfully completed advanced special operations training, and several were now serving in operational units. The selection and training protocols had been refined based on lessons learned from Sarah's experience, creating a more effective pipeline for identifying and developing qualified candidates. Sarah's presentation focused on the practical aspects of integration rather than political considerations. She discussed training methodologies, team dynamics, and operational effectiveness, providing concrete evidence that properly prepared women could contribute meaningfully to special operations missions. Her data-driven approach resonated with military leaders who valued empirical evidence over theoretical arguments. The questions from the audience revealed both the progress that had been made and the challenges that remained. Some officials expressed concerns about physical standards and unit cohesion, while others wanted to know about expansion plans and resource requirements. Sarah answered each question directly, drawing on her extensive experience to provide practical insights, rather than abstract theories. One particularly pointed question came from a congressional representative who had initially opposed integration efforts. He wanted to know whether the program's success justified its costs and whether the military benefits outweighed the social and political complications involved. Sarah's response was measured but firm, emphasizing that operational effectiveness was the only standard that mattered in combat situations. Chief Rodriguez was invited to provide his perspective on working with integrated teams. His comments carried special weight because of his reputation for straight talk and operational credibility. He described how Sarah's skills had enhanced his team's capabilities and explained why he now actively sought to include qualified women in his operational planning. The presentation concluded with Sarah outlining recommendations for future policy development. She emphasized the importance of maintaining high standards while ensuring that evaluation processes focused on capabilities essential for mission success. Her suggestions reflected years of experience working within the system and understanding both its strengths and limitations. After the formal presentation, Sarah found herself surrounded by individuals seeking more detailed discussions about specific aspects of the integration program. Military officers wanted tactical insights, policymakers needed implementation guidance, and media representatives sought human interest, perspectives on her remarkable journey from skeptical reception to accepted team member. The conversations revealed how significantly attitudes had shifted since Sarah's first day at Coronado. The debate had moved from whether women could succeed in special operations to how best to identify and develop their capabilities. The question was no longer about possibility, but about process, representing a fundamental change in how the military approached gender integration. Later that evening, Sarah and Chief Rodriguez met privately to discuss future plans and challenges. Their conversation reflected a friendship and professional partnership that had developed through shared experiences and mutual respect. They talked about the missions they had completed together and the impact those successes had on expanding opportunities for others. Chief Rodriguez expressed pride in how the integration program had evolved, but he also acknowledged that much work remained to be done. Cultural change in military organizations was slow, and sustained effort would be required to ensure that opportunities remained available and that qualified candidates received fair consideration regardless of their gender. Sarah reflected on her journey from that first nervous day at the SEAL training facility to her current role as an advocate and symbol for women in combat. The path had been challenging, requiring her to prove herself repeatedly while carrying the additional burden of representation. Yet the satisfaction of opening doors for others made every difficulty worthwhile. The impact of her success extended far beyond military circles. Young women across the country saw her achievements as proof that traditional barriers could be overcome through preparation, determination, and excellence. Her story inspired individuals pursuing their own breakthroughs in fields where they faced skepticism and resistance. Academic institutions began studying the integration program as a model for organizational change and barrier removal. Business leaders sought insights about identifying and developing talent, regardless of traditional assumptions about capability and fit. Sarah found herself consulted on issues far removed from military operations but connected to fundamental questions about equal opportunity and merit-based evaluation. The rifle that Chief Rodriguez had symbolically passed to Sarah during that crucial training exercise had become more than just a weapon. It represented trust, opportunity, and the recognition that capability transcended traditional expectations. Sarah kept that rifle as a reminder of how far she had traveled and how much further there was to go. As she prepared for her next assignment, Sarah understood that her most significant contributions might still be ahead of her. The foundation for women's participation in special operations had been established, But building on that foundation would require continued excellence from herself and others who followed her path. Each successful mission, each barrier overcome, and each door opened made the path easier for those who came after. The young girls who would benefit from her breakthrough were still in elementary school, dreaming of futures that her success had made possible. Some would become soldiers, others would pursue different paths, but all would grow up in a world where their gender would not automatically limit their opportunities to serve their country in whatever capacity their talents and dedication could support. Sarah's story had become larger than her individual achievements. It represented the power of persistence, the importance of maintaining high standards, and the potential for positive change when organizations had the courage to evaluate people based on their capabilities rather than their demographics. The Navy SEAL who had stepped aside and given her his rifle had made a decision that changed not just her life but the lives of countless others who would follow in her footsteps. The legacy of that moment continued to unfold, creating ripple effects that would influence military policy, inspire future generations, and demonstrate that excellence knows no boundaries when opportunity and preparation meet determination and skill. Sarah's journey was complete, but the path she had blazed would remain open for others to follow, each adding their own contributions to the ongoing story of courage, capability, and the relentless pursuit of excellence in service to their nation.